Welcome everybody to episode 11 of the Timely Pursuits channel. I'm Azad,
And I'm Kevin.
and we're here to deliver this casual and informative, opinionated and superfluous show where we talk about horological happenings and what's going on with our watch collecting lives. Kevin, how have you been?
I'm very, very well, Azad. Thanks for asking. I've been busy, mainly in London, but doing very, very well. Thank you. How's things with you?
Good, yeah. Foot's better now, so I'm
Excellent.
out and about quite a bit more. It's still been pretty quiet. I haven't been to any events recently, but I think you've been quite busy with events, haven't you?
I have been. I've been to Brightling events only a couple of days ago now. And before that, I ended up going to the Fears event at Time and Tide in just behind Oxford Circus. Fears launched a very impressive watch, which we'll talk about shortly.
Excellent. Well, we'll save that one for the news section. What have you got on your wrist today?
Today, in celebration of the Brighton event, I've got one of my first watches I ever bought, Breitling Airwolf. Lovely. It's Annie Digital. It's a very, very special piece for me. I love it a lot. I do wear it quite a bit. It's a daily beater for me. But what have you got on? Anything special?
Well, I think it's special. I quite like it. So I've got the Grand Seiko SLGA 013, which is a spring drive 5-day movement on stainless steel. And it's got this fantastic wood effect dial, black dial on there, which I really like. I originally saw the first version that they released of this, I think a few years ago, but they'd done it in white gold, I believe,
Wow.
and fell in love with the dial. I thought, I can't afford this. It was, I can't remember how much it was, easily over £100,000 at the time. But then they released this limited edition version in the stainless steel, slightly different, but still same pretty much in terms of the dial. I thought, yeah, I've got to get that. So yeah, enjoying it, and obviously we discussed Grand Seiko last week, so I thought, yeah, I should give this a bit more love.
Excellent. Lovely, lovely piece you have there.
Let's move on to news. Kevin, you picked up on a story just the other day. Something is actually local to us in London. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure, yes. So it's been officially announced that the Wonder Room in Selfridges is no longer under Bucherer control. It's now going to be mainly Richemont Group watches or brands going to be taking over, but they're all going to be independent. So if you have something like Blancpain or any of the other Richemont Group watch brands in there, they're all going to be standalone points of sale. So that's much better, I think, because hopefully you will get a better experience walking in there and purchasing your IWC from them as opposed to normal staff, normal sales staff who don't have a clue about what they're talking about when it comes to watches. And I'm sure, as already mentioned the story to me, would you like to enlighten us about your experience in the Wonder Room?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not convinced that the service could get much worse. To be honest, I mean, to be fair, it was fairly mixed every time I went in there. Sometimes you get somebody who's actually quite good, who knows what they're talking about, is very familiar with the pieces, clearly received some good training. Sometimes you get somebody that's totally has no clue whatsoever. And I won't even talk about the Rolex experience there. That's just a waste of time, going in there at all. So yeah, I mean, once upon a time, I went in and the Zenith Daytona lookalike, or the Zaytona as is often referred to, had just recently come out. It was super limited. You couldn't find it in most stores. It was waitlisted and trading well above the list price. And I was in there and I spotted it and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I had to flag someone down to come and help me, show me the piece, because nobody was manning the Zenith post at that point. Tried it on. I thought, this is quite nice. Let me just inquire about the price. I wasn't at the time in a position to buy it, and frankly, I had other things that looked a bit too similar anyway. But I was just interested to see what it was doing, and like I said, because it was trading above list, um, the person gave me the price, didn't really know anything about it other than it's a new Zenith model. I said to him, well, can you do me a deal? Can you do me a discount? Went away, came back, offered me 15% off on the spot.
Wow.
I thought,
Wow.
that's pretty amazing. It's just come out. this is waitlisted everywhere else, and I've got this member of staff offering me 15% off. And I didn't buy it because, frankly, I'm not into that kind of trading and so on. But I mean, that kind of to me highlighted the lack of knowledge that was going on in that store at that time.
That's incredible. I mean, to get 15% off a highly desirable piece, which, as you said, was trading over list at that time, they have no.
What was your experience in the store? Did you use it much?
No, not at all. I went to the other brands in there, like Van Cleef and Arpels, Rolex, Bulgari are there as well, which are
Yeah.
independent. I mean, the only brand which is still run by Bucherer in there is the Rolex boutique. So I've never looked in there properly because I know that people just have a bad experience because it's just normal sales staff. One day they're selling pots and pans in the lower basement. The next day they're up on the watch floor selling Hublot, and they just don't have a clue. So I've always stayed away, to be perfectly honest. And to be fair, I'm glad Booker have pulled out because they want to give everybody a high level of service and a unique experience, which you do get at their boutiques in Covent Garden and Westfield. So yeah, it's they've done the right thing, I think. And now that it's going to be independent brands from Richemont in there, and one or two from Swatch Group, I have to say, are going to be in there as well. You will get a better service, and hopefully things will turn around for them in the Wonder Room.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what was in it for them because they never advertised that they were Bucherer. Only if you asked and if you spotted the Bucherer exclusive Tudor, for example, did you suddenly realize that Bucherer is running the Wonder Room. But apart from that, I didn't see a great deal of benefit apart from obviously they're doing business, they're selling watches through there. But I mean, surely they'd make more money doing it in their own stores, which of course is exactly what they're doing now.
Yeah.
Moving out. So makes sense for them. And yeah, hopefully it will improve the customer experience for Selfridges customers.
Definitely. And as I said, Booker have opened up or expanded their presence in Westfield, in Shepherd's Bush. That's now an amazing space. And also in the news, which I've just remembered, opposite them now is a new Omega boutique, which has just opened up.
Oh,
Yes,
in Westfield, do you
in
mean?
Westfield, yes, in Westfield.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that's been open now probably under a month, and hopefully that'll be interesting for people to pop along there and purchase your Snoopy. Sorry,
Or not.
or not exactly.
Or not. Yeah. Initially, Omega and Bucherer said that they would continue to work together post the takeover from Rolex, but clearly that's not the case. Omega has definitely been pulling out of the majority of those Bucherer stores, and they're opening up boutiques pretty much right next to them. I mean, that's what happened in Covent Garden as well, right?
Yes, definitely. They pulled out of Booker and Covent Garden, and literally, you're right. Opposite or next door, two shop fronts away is the new Omega boutique. I mean, Omega's strategy now is to pull out of most multi-brand shops and have standalone boutiques. Depending on how you feel about that, they have more control over the sales, not offering discounts, which is a sad thing. And they just have so it's one point of sale. Yeah, have a better experience with people who know about the brand and the watches themselves.
I've had reasonably good experiences going through ADs and buying Omegas, but nowhere near as good as going through the boutique itself. It's just a much better experience, better relationship as well with staff. They get to know you, get invited to events and so on. So I'm all for that, but I would say there's a distinction between a normal authorized dealer, multi-brand authorized dealer, and one that's owned by one of your big competitors. Why are you doing business essentially with a firm and you're giving away 20, 30%, maybe even 40% of your margins literally to another firm who's competing with you? That makes no sense. That had to end. And I don't know how long the likes of Cartier are going to be selling through Bucherer as well, or some of the others, because to me, it makes no sense to do that. I'd be pulling out straight away and be looking to do exactly what Omega's doing, or just limit it to being outside of the Bucherer stores.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. In Cartier, if you think about that that particular brand. They're doing extremely well. Their boutiques on Bond Street are fantastic spaces to go and visit, and obviously you have a greater experience there than compared to a multi-brand like Bucherer. But on the flip side, it costs a lot of money to have a standalone boutique. There's a lot of investment in there. There's the rental space. I mean, I know watch brand Bond Street. They're spending £10 million a year in rental. So you have to factor
Mm,
that in.
mm.
It's all about the sales, the staff, the experience. It does cost a hell of a lot of money. And it's easier just to go to a multi-brand boutique and say, here are my watches, do what you can with them. So there is a flip side, and I do understand it can be difficult to get the balance right. We'll see if Cartier do pull out. In the comments, tell me what you think about Cartier. Should they pull out or not? Should they have more standalone boutiques? Put your comments in the comments box below.
Also in the news this week, we've just had the announcement from independent watchmakers Ming of the release of their new World Time watch. The 2901 is now going to be brought out in a black DLC coated titanium case. This was originally released in a more traditional titanium case previously, and this is now the updated version. So, in terms of the specification, this is a true world time movement ordered by Ming and created by Schwartz Etienne, custom for Ming themselves. What's fantastic is the dimensions of this watch, just 40 millimeters in diameter, just under 12 millimeters in height. So, incredibly compact for a world time watch. I think this is a fantastic looking watch. It comes with 22 millimeter lug width on a black custom FKM strap, and also has 50 meters of water resistance. So it's a little bit sporty, or certainly more sporty than the previous version, which was also had a bracelet available for it. I'm a big fan of Ming. I really like this. There's only going to be 25 of these made available worldwide, and delivery is expected between 6 and 8 weeks after the drop goes live. Probably will sell out fairly quickly, I'm afraid, by the time you've seen this video. My only kind of complaint is, frankly, the price. It's 22,000 Swiss francs, excluding taxes. So in sterling terms, that's going to be about 23,750 odd pounds, roughly there or thereabouts. That's quite a lot of money for a titanium world time watch. I think that if you're a true collector and a big fan, this is going to be up there for you. But for a lot of people, I think that's going to be quite pricey. What do you think of this one, Kevin?
It's a cool piece. It's very, very nice. I just can't get my head around that price. It's way too expensive. There's a lot of watches out there you can get in that sort of price bracket. I mean, I know it's going to be limited, and I know it's Ming, so it's beautifully crafted. However, there's only going to be one or two people that I know who would even consider purchasing that, and they won't stump up the money for it. It's beautiful. I know they're taking Ming is going to a whole new level, but wow, that is certainly a whole new level when it comes to pricing as well.
And I know they get quite involved in the design of the movements and the types of finishing, but ultimately it's not them, it's not their watchmaker putting this thing together. So that cost tells you that, sometimes some designs are maybe just not economical. I just don't think that, maybe that they should even go there if that's the cost that they can achieve. It doesn't feel very competitive.
I know what you mean. I mean, if they made 200 or it's in part of the core collection, yes, the cost may come down, not substantially, but it's all about supply and demand.
I'm sure they can justify it from a production perspective. The question is, can the buyer justify it? That's I think hard. I mean, you really have to love the brand to spend that much, right?
100%, 100%. And you won't see one in the wild. Definitely, be very rare to see
You're right. I
one.
mean, I've tried on the previous one and absolutely love it. The dimensions are phenomenal, fantastic for smaller wrists. I do own a proper world timer, and that's the world timer that Omega produces, and I really love that watch as well. But it's a big watch. It's it's not going to comfortably fit under a cuff, for example. Whereas this will. I got to try on the original at an event in Hong Kong. I'll try to put some footage up of that when I was there. Really wonderful. It's just, I just wish they could make it, cheaper. But incidentally, Kevin, if you were looking at the specs of this, micro rotor movement, custom finish, everything, what kind of price would you be happy to pay for this one?
Oh, gosh, at least half. At least half. Yeah, you're looking at 10K. It's titanium, isn't it? So, yeah, 10, 11K. Even though that's still, I think, personally on the high side for, would you still call them, what would you call them? The brand itself, are they a micro brand still?
Not
Not
anymore.
anymore?
No, I mean,
Much more established?
no, they've outgrown it. They've got a team in place. That I think they're even opening a retail spot now as well. I think of them as an independent brand, but not a micro brand anymore. They've definitely outgrown that. I asked that question because I just spotted a second hand of the first version that they released being offered by our friends at Subdial. And yes, they've got it listed for about half the cost of the original retail price, which I think is definitely fair. But I'd hate to be that buyer that picked it up at over 20K and is now having to let it go for about half that cost, excluding the fees that Subdial are obviously going to earn, which are considerable, shall we say?
Yeah,
that's
amazing. I don't believe that. So the original one was over 20K as well. I didn't know that.
Yeah, pretty much similar price. I think it's only slightly less, not much more. I think. Yeah, this is slightly higher because of the coating that's being applied to it. But apart from that, it's roughly the same movement, similar situation. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody should snap that one up then, definitely.
Well, you never know. Maybe me before this episode goes out.
Sure.
We will tune into the next episode to find out
Yeah,
if I did buy the Ming Worldtimer from Subdial.
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, in the comments, can you put down how much would you pay for the Ming Worldtimer? Either option, the current one or the one which is coming out in a couple of weeks. Let us know in the comments what you think the value should be. That would be interesting to find out.
I'd love to find out if anybody actually thinks this is cheap and they pay even more for it. That's what I'd like.
Wow. I need to meet that person.
Somebody out there probably does. Yeah.
So we've just realised from speaking about Worldtimers, Nomos dropped a couple at Watches and Wonders in different colours. They're under 4K and they're 40mm diameter and about 10mm thick. So they're even thinner than the Ming watches, which are coming out in a couple of weeks' time in titanium, which are at £22,000. What are your thoughts on these Worldtimers from Nomos?
Personally, I'm not a fan of the aesthetics, but I like the functionality that they're delivering, and especially for the price as well. My only kind of criticism is that, is it truly a world timer if you can't read the time for the whole world at the same time, if that makes sense? Because there's no spinning hour, 24-hour disc that goes round the outside. It's a, if you like, it's a second time zone with a city's indicator going round the outside. So it's not as if you can set it to Paris, but then read New York straight away. I think that's the difference between what a true world timer is and what Nomos is offering.
Sure.
But still a nice watch.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Moving on now, and we mentioned already that Kevin has just been to an event with his favorite brand, Fears. So Kevin, tell us what have they been cooking?
So Fears once again have knocked it out of the park. They've come up with a new Brunswick 40 called the Odyssey Edition. Now this is to celebrate a young man. I think he's a young man, but relatively young. Angus Collins, a world record rower, and he's going to be going right the way around the UK. He's starting, I believe, on the 1st of June from Portsmouth, and he's going to be solo rowing right the way around the coast of UK, and he's going to hopefully do it within 60 days. And to celebrate that, Fears and Nicholas and his team have come up with a unique timepiece which will be used by Angus whilst he's rowing. It is an experimental. It's called Experimental Number 1. It has got a water resistance of 300 meters. The Great British Odyssey Edition will have a water resistance of 150 meters, slightly less, but I won't be going down 150 meters, I can assure you. It's 40mm, and the design it's a cushion case, of course, which Nicholas, that's the trademark from Fears, and it's limited to 100 pieces. The case back has got the stamp of the UK, and it's got the traversing proposed path of him canoeing around the coast of the UK, and it's very, very nice piece. I have to say, it's beautiful, and the cost is very, very reasonable. I think it's about £3,850, 3,550 pounds cost, which I think is very, very reasonable. It comes with two straps. One of them is the same as the one that Angus is wearing. It's the orange one, and the second one, which is a bit more utilitarian, which is the blue one. Again, Fears, in my eyes, can really do no wrong. I'm sorry, but it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts. Please, in the comments below, let us know your thoughts on this new release of 100 pieces. What do you think about it, Azad? What are your thoughts?
I really like it. I have a blue 40 millimeter Brunswick in my collection already with the bracelets, which I really like. Very elegant yet still quite sporty piece, especially on the bracelet. And I mean, you can definitely get the bracelet for this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we were doing our Rolex predictions, and I was really hoping for a white Explorer one? I mean, this is kind of it, isn't it? This is the one that scratches the itch potentially. There are a couple of little things I would have done slightly differently. I would have liked the Fears logo to be a bit larger. I feel the center of the dial, especially the southern half of the dial, feels a bit empty. But apart from that, I really like the watch, and I know these are quite high quality watches from owning my one as well. So, congratulations, Nicholas and the team. I think you're on to a winner. I personally would definitely wear it on the Marion Nationale strap. I like that orange strap, that combination.
Oh yeah, it's lovely, absolutely lovely. And going back to your point about the southern half of the dial, on Angus's version, he does have a logo on it. It's actually a maritime flag, so obviously it's a replica of the design of Angus's, but his one has definitely got the flag on there, so that's why it probably does look a bit slightly off, because that's where the flag would be. But on the fan edition, it's no longer on there. So but yeah, I understand what you mean. It is a lovely piece. I'm not a fan of the Explorer ones, but I would definitely purchase one of these. I think we'll see. We shall see. It's got an automatic movement, which they're starting to use the Swiss-made movement. 68 hours power reserve.
So that would be the La Bucherer, I guess, for 60 hours.
That's the one. That's
Yeah.
the one they've used in it. It's the more I look at it, the more I think I should purchase it, but we'll see. So don't forget, this is a piece for charity as well. So some of the proceeds from the sale of the 100 will be going to James's Place charity, which saves lives who are many who are in suicidal crisis, and it's a good cause. So obviously, please purchase it.
Comment down below to let us know what you think of the latest Fizz release. Is this one that floats your boat? Let us know below.
Oh God.
We're definitely using that. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Previously on the Timely Pursuits channel.
So, Kevin, what's on your wrist today?
Today is something we may or may not talk about later. Keep you in suspense. It's the Rolex Batgirl. Very, very nice. It's for a couple of years. Yeah, can't complain. It's a nice watch, but we'll see how nice it is.
Now, you might remember in the last episode that Kevin was wearing his Batgirl watch, and there was a bit of a hint that we might discuss it a little bit further. The reality is we just ran out of time. The episode was a little bit too long. We had to cut it at that point. But we're now going to show you the review of the Batgirl / Batman or Batperson watch, as we like to call it. So hope you enjoy the following. Moving on, and we've decided to review a watch that we both own, slightly different in terms of the variants, but we felt that because again we both own this watch, it puts us in a very good position to be able to review and importantly rank and score this particular watch. That watch is the Rolex BLNR 126710, which is known amongst the fans as both the Batman and the Batgirl. Now, for political correctness, I guess we call it the Batperson, Kevin? I don't know.
I suppose you could call it that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be a bit more politically correct about these things. How
You're
does
right.
this watch identify itself? We really don't know.
Mhm.
Now, Kevin, you own the version on the Jubilee bracelets. I
Yes, I
own the
do.
version on the Oyster bracelet. So we've got both sides covered, which is, I think, fantastic from that perspective. A little bit of history for everybody watching. The first GMT Master 2 6-digit reference was introduced in 2005. That was in just the black Cerachrome bezel. It introduced the new Oyster bracelet for the very first time with the high polished center links, and of course it brought in the triple lock crown as well. But it wasn't until 2013 till the very first version of the BLNR came out. That was the 116710. The first time we had a two-tone ceramic bezel being introduced. Now, Kevin, do you know what BLNR stands for?
A few moments later.
Unfortunately, I do not. Please enlighten me.
Yeah, I mean, I discovered this in my research. It stands for bleu noir or blue black in French, which, yeah, actually, now that I know it, makes a lot of sense, which, now you know, put it that way. In 2018, the new Pepsi version was introduced. Of course, the Pepsi was the original GMT master from, when was it, the 1950s or 1960s?
60s, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that was the original popular one that was brought in at the request of, I believe, Pan Am airline pilots that wanted to differentiate the 24-hour time zones as they flew across the world, and of course that was then refined and updated in the GMT Master 2 with the maxi case and the high-tech ceramics that were also brought in. So the return of the Pepsi also brought in a new caliber 3285 with the 70-hour power reserve. In 2019, Kevin's version, the Batgirl, was introduced and the Batman was actually discontinued, but that was the current reference, the 126710. And then eventually in 2021, the Oyster bracelet version was then reintroduced, and now we are where we're at, and that's the final version is the version that I have. That was a very quick run through its history. In terms of the specs, and I'll put them up on the screen here. It's a 40mm diameter case, roughly 48mm lug to lug, or 49.5mm to the end link, especially on the version with the Oyster bracelet. Only 12.5mm thick, which is really actually quite a slim movement for a GMT watch. Tudor, take note, please. And pretty straightforward. Superlative movement, super accurate. I think is up to 2 seconds deviation per day. As I mentioned already, 70-hour power reserve. Won't say any more along this. I think that the specs are quite well understood out there. But let's start to rank it. Let's go through, bit by bit in terms of our various categories. If you haven't seen us do this before, we did this with the Studio Underdog Fears collaboration for the Gimlet back in episode 7. So go back and watch that episode if you want to get a full breakdown of how we come up with this scoring system. So without further delay, let's start off with scoring the design. For me, I do think this is an iconic watch. Anybody who sees it on your wrist will know exactly what it is, and that's exactly what you want from a design. Something that's unique, something that's original, and that it stands out. Does it cover all the functionality? Absolutely. It's incredibly legible, very easy, especially with the dual tone on the bezel. So I'm going to give it an exceptional 5 out of 5 score. What about you, Kevin?
I'm going to disagree with you slightly. The watch itself is very, very nice. I do like it. It's 40mm. It's a perfect size for most people's wrists. However, I draw the line at the label iconic. Unfortunately, I think the Pepsi, which is the blue red bezel version, is the iconic version. That's the original Pepsi. That's the one which basically kick-started all of the color variations. So I would consider that the iconic version. This one, the blue black, slightly less. Hence, my score is a solid 4.
I think I can understand where you're coming from. I agree. The Pepsi is definitely more iconic. I guess the problem with the current version as it stands is, the problem with the color bleeding in, the red blue bleeding into each other. Speaking to my AD recently, he was telling me how supply is very limited of those at the moment because they're having so many problems with the bezel, which I think is quite interesting. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Moving on to the construction and finishing. What's your view on this, Kevin?
So I give this a solid 4 for this particular piece. This particular GMT is a beautiful color. The blue black is very, very nice. As you say, it's very legible. The bracelet sits very, very well. It doesn't jangle, and it's you can't go wrong. It's just a classic piece of design. There's so many different brands that have tried to replicate this particular watch, and I remember having a meeting with Mike at Christopher Ward, and during their design of their GMT watches and the bezel, they actually went into a Rolex dealer and they recorded and tried to replicate the movement and the sound of the bezel for going into their design. So obviously it's iconic to a certain extent. I still think the Pepsi's the iconic version. However, the design and manufacture of this particular watch, it's a solid 4, absolutely. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, this is a tool watch. I know the price tag is quite high, and because of that, people don't consider it to be a tool watch. But originally, it was designed as a tool watch. I still believe it's well constructed like a tool watch. And because of that, I can't see anything I would change about the watch. I can't think of anything that needs upgrading in terms of the construction or the finishing. And because of that, I will also give it a 4 out of 5 great score overall. The only thing that's holding me back from giving it an exceptional 5 is there's no real element of hand finishing as far as I can see there. I mean, the movement is covered up and so on. So maybe that holds it back a little bit. But then again, I don't think it's trying to be the high horology piece that maybe some people might think it is. It isn't. That's more reserved for some of the more dressy watches that Rolex has. This is a tool watch, and I think it delivers very well, and hence that scoring. Moving on now to the movement. Strong movement, in my view. I think that they really pushed things forward when they brought in the jump power adjustment for the GMT. And that's been, I think, now very popular out there amongst the industry, to the point where the likes of Seiko and Miyota are now trying to replicate the same functionality in the quick set of the GMT hour, which is fantastic. That's really helped bring down the cost of that kind of functionality in those watches, but they are nowhere near as slim or well made as the Rolex movement. So for that reason, I'm going to give the movement a 5 out of 5. What's your view, Kevin?
I'm going to give the movement a slightly lower score, and there is a reason behind this. However, the movement is +2, -2 per day, which is exceptional. That's within cost, which is amazing. You've got 70-hour power reserve, which is amazing. You do need that in a watch like this. However, because Rolex have just released a new movement, the Skyloxy in the Land Dweller, I know that will come into the rest of the range in due course. I mean, it might be 2-3 years away. So I'm going to give the current movement 4, knowing full well that it's going to be upgraded in a couple of years. That's my rationale.
Moving on to brand strength, and I guess this category should be one of the easier ones to score, given that we are talking about Rolex. Kevin, I'm going to let you start on this one.
Wow. What can you say about Rolex regarding brand strength? If you go to anybody in the world and say, what's the best brand in the world at this moment in time, they will say Rolex. And that just gives you an idea of brand strength, how they've dominated the marketing side of watches. I'm not saying they are high horology. Some pieces are amazing. The design is fantastic. But when it comes to brand strength, 5 out of 5, out of 5, out of 5, out of 5. Nobody does it better than Rolex. What about you, Esad? What are your thoughts on it?
Look, totally agree. They have very cleverly sponsored the right events, sponsored the right people as well, really elevated the brand, not just through marketing and marketing techniques, but also through the control of the supply of their watches, which we'll come on to talk about in a moment as well. That's meant that at least some of their watches, including this particular model, commands a higher value in the secondary market than the retail price originally. And I think that just means that the brand and this particular watch have a very strong following and high value placed on that branding. So for me, I also will give it a 5 out of 5. Moving on now to probably the more contentious part of this ranking, and that is the owner's experience. We've talked about this in the past, and I think, in addition to the interaction with the brand, the quality of the staff, the website experience, etc., one of the areas that we also need to discuss is the ease of acquisition. And this is really where I think most people will start to complain. Both myself and Kevin, clearly we're a little bit biased because we both got the watch, so we must have done something right along the way to be able to get it. We both bought it from the boutiques, right, Kevin? From
Yes,
AG,
definitely boutique, yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't try to jump the queue by going into the secondary market. That means something must have gone right along the way. However, that's not to say it's been easy, and I've certainly had to jump through quite a few hoops to get there. And in an ideal world, I wouldn't want to do that. I'd rather just be able to go up and buy the watches that I want. I never had to buy anything I didn't want, but I certainly had to wait quite a few years to be able to get it and build up that history with the brand, which with the AD, I should say, stress, not the brand, because there is obviously a strong distinction. So because of that, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 scoring, an okay scoring. Yes, they do have a very good warranty. If you have any issues with the watch, they will deal with it straight away. But your experience with Rolex is highly dependent on your authorized dealer and how well you get on with that authorized dealer. And because of that, there are plenty of negative stories out there as well that I kind of have to flag as well. What about you, Kevin? What do you think?
I agree. It certainly depends on the authorized dealer you deal with. I have had interactions with various groups, Watches Switzerland, Bucherer, Loop, small independent, family-owned boutiques, and it varies from which boutique you go into, which brand of boutique you go into, and also the actual retail staff you deal with. I remember going into one boutique and wanting a particular watch. It wasn't very, very popular at the time. It was a two-tone Yachtmaster just before it got discontinued, and never heard from them at all. But when I've bought Rolexes from other authorized dealers like Booker, like Switzerland, they treat you slightly differently. And I know that I've been fortunate enough to go to Rolex events with the authorized dealer, and it's been a wonderful experience from them. But I have to stress, this is the authorized dealer. It's not Rolex taking you out to lunch or dinner. This is the authorized dealer who have organized an event with Rolex. Sure, there is a member of the Rolex management team there, either UK rep or overall rep or whoever, but it is an authorized dealer event. And because of that, and I've had a good experience with the authorized dealer, I will give it a 2. You still have to jump through hoops to get the watch that you want. They may have, if you go to a boutique now, they may have 10 Pepsis and 10 Batgirls and Batmen there in the safe. Can you get it even though it's in stock? No. You have to jump through hoops. You have to have purchase history. You have to be nice to them. there's all sorts of caveats for you to get the watch that you want, and that's the bit most of us don't like.
So overall, taking everything into consideration, the Rolex Batperson BLNR GMT Master 2 gets a score of 20 out of 25. The watch retails for £9,450, but usually trades well above that in the secondary market, somewhere around the £12,500 to £13,000 as things currently stand. So clearly still a very popular watch.
Yes, it is. I mean, this is, believe it or not, easier to get than the iconic Pepsi, but still difficult to get.
That's all for episode 11 of the Timely Pursuits channel. We really hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe, and also hit the bell notification icon to be notified of all future episodes. If you'd like to follow me further, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is az.time, or you can also follow the other YouTube channel, and that is simply aztime. Where can people find you, Kevin?
As always, the best place is Instagram. My handle is Kevin_Roberts100. So please comment below of this episode, and we look forward to reading them.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye all.